Welcome to Scream Queen, a podcast about scary movies.
From people not typically depicted in scary movies. What's up, Drea? How are you doing? How are you holding up in the week 711 of the fucking goddamn pandemic?
That's the exact number. You're right. I'm hanging in there. You know, here I is with my purple lipstick on, trying to just pretend like I'm having wonderful times during COVID. You know, just I'm always in the club in my head. Not that I miss the club, but
I've been going out on a lot of like generals on Zoom with like people from different studios, and I had one with Amazon that was like pretty cool because all we did was talk about Tales from the Loop, Vast of Night, and The Twilight Zone. Because I've been catching up with The Twilight Zone. The first season, I'd never watched the first season before. I watched the second season after we were talking about it on this show. That first season, there are some really good fucking episodes. That one with Sanaa Lathan and the camcorder.
There's some really, really good episodes on that one. Yeah.
I wasn't as taken with the second season, I would say.
No, that's what I was telling you. I was just like, I even kind of took it off the schedule, but we could talk about certain episodes. You know, I'm still down to do that. But as a
I don't want to talk about the boring one. I don't want to talk about the bad ones. You know, I would just like to. There's the Topher Grace one in the second season. That's cool. The one in the first season with the that Indian chick. It's like in Alaska, and it's like Greg Kinnear, I think. And there's like a dude. It's like, what's his name?
I haven't seen the first season in a while. Honestly, it's probably something I should go back and watch again.
Stephen
I remember
is like a
Seth
prisoner.
Rogen episode, and wasn't it Seth and Zazie Beetz for the last episode of first? Yeah,
I didn't see it yet. I love
that's the last episode. That's the last episode I want to say of Twilight Zone.
Okay, what have you been imbibing culturally this week?
Well, I've been watching a real life horror story called Immigration Nation on Netflix.
Ooh,
And you know, I think it's required watching. You have to watch it. You have to understand that this is happening like right now, and there's nothing normal about it. And you know, I happen to live so close to the border most of my life. Literally, if I walk outside my parents' front door, Mexico's right there. Like it's our backyard. And growing up, it was like we were so close to the border. To give you even a better idea, people would come through our backyards at night, like families, and they would throw their kids over the fence, you know, just trying to get into California, just trying to get through, but not realize when they throw their kids over this fence, there's a giant drop. So me and my parents would stay up super late at night, and then they started learning how to speak Spanish to them and to not scare them and to let them know, like, so we would give them water and food and whatever we could give them and say, go through our fence, go around through the gate if you need to go this way, but don't drop your kids over this way. But we were always just trying to do whatever we could. But I'm very, very close to this. These motherfucking ICE patrol people were just lifting people up off the streets, just in Chula Vista, not too far from here. You know, at the Chula Vista shopping center, they pulled in and just, you know, just snatching kids from their families, and like those are real life monsters.
Yeah, no, know? that's the boogeyman.
Yeah, and we know what the fuck they're doing. You know,
I actually didn't realize how far south because I know that you went back to San Diego when the pandemic started, and so I just figured, I don't know, downtown or something like that. And then I sent Drea a shot glass with our faces on it from the Scream Queen on one of the Scream Queen pictures, and she gave me her address, and I was like, this bitch is in Tijuana. What is going on right now? You live in TJ. What's happening?
I do. I basically do. I mean, it was normal to me growing up, and I was constantly in Mexico. Most of my friends were like, they would live there but come to school here, you know, so it was just normal to me. I stopped going down there years ago because it got dangerous and bad things happened. But you know, just stupid people that didn't respect that city. You'd hear about those stories and they ruined it for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Just bad tourists.
I remember in high school, that was a place that you could take the bus to the trolley and then the trolley down, and then you could go drink.
Oh, it's messy. It's so messy. I used to be clubbing out there and when I was like 16, 17.
Just ass out.
No, ass out. That's but for real, like this documentary, like it's kind of amazing that they only hire morons to fulfill this position. That's the only kind of person that can actually take on this role. you know, because they look at people as though as though they don't exist, you know, and as though they somehow are so much, you know, so much more superior.
Well, the way that people commit atrocities, and traditionally, I mean, like other places do, but like just an American project is to deny humanity from a group of people. Then you can treat them however you want to. So it's like Native Americans were just part of the landscape. If they're just part of the landscape, then you can just mow them like the grass. You know, Black people, slaves. That's 3/5 of the person. That's not even a person. So
Your
it's
purpose is
okay.
to do what I say. Yeah, do
Yeah.
work for me and fall in line.
And so if they're just like, oh, they're illegal, therefore they're criminals, therefore they're not human, therefore we can do whatever we want to them.
Like literally this shit that they allow themselves to be filmed saying, it's crazy. Because it's, I mean, if this doesn't dismantle them, I don't know what will. It's like the head of, I don't, there's so many heads, but the main person that gives the orders is Jeff Sessions, you know, and so they blame all the judges, but if the judges don't go along with it, they'll lose their jobs. But then again, you know, it's like then lose your job if they're telling you to do something horrible, you know, because it's completely, it's an atrocity, and it just breaks my heart what they're doing to these people. And
the shitty thing is, it's like, it's not even like gotcha journalism, and it's not made up, and they didn't splice together clips to get people to say
they
things.
Literally are just giving up this information. They all love to talk about, oh yep, I voted for the guy. They're talking about Trump. They're like, yeah, like when it was Obama in office, they called him the deporter in chief, but we've definitely deported at least double what he did. And that's, you know, so it's like, what the fuck? That's what and then they'll have phone calls with the documentary team, like in the car, and they'll get a call from the head guy in the office talking about, oh, I don't care what you do, but you better bring at least 2 in. So we have a head count, at least 2. And the guy got phone like, he knew you were in the car with me, right? Because that was a really fucking stupid thing for him to say. Even the guy who out there doing this dirty job, he recognizes, like, you know, like, this is what the fuck, you know? And but yeah, it was just, I haven't completely finished it because it was, again, it's overwhelming, it's draining, it's sad to watch, but there's it teaches you so much, and what it makes it, and it gives you all the information and ways to get involved to prevent this shit. And that's, you know, and we have to get in the way to make sure these people are safe.
That's one of those shows where, like, you watch an episode and then you have to watch 2 episodes of Bob's Burgers or some shit just to be like, I need to.
Oh, I need a fat blunt after. Fat blunt.
Oh, wait. So what are we getting into this week, Drea?
This week you brought it up to, you know, because it came out around the same time as this, we started our podcast, but we couldn't actually get access to the film. But we're getting into Scream Queen, my Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's about Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and the star Mark Patton, and just the journey that film took him through.
Ran train on him.
Basically. And for our Scream Queen of the week, it's Miss Tashiana Washington in Critters Attacks.
One of the dumbest movies I've seen in a while. But honestly, this is what I get for making you watch fucking Resident Evil just to see Ashanti die for some crows.
Oh, and that fucking urban legend bullshit. Well, I didn't even watch that though.
You watched the death scene on YouTube, bitch. You didn't watch the whole goddamn movie.
Fuck you. That was stupid. I hated it. All right. Take it away, Tommy.
All right. So Scream Queen, my Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, again, this was like a spontaneous generation. We came up with our title and they came up with theirs, and we had nothing to do with each other, and they didn't get theirs from us, and we didn't get theirs.
Title it's a known title. It's been a TV show. There's other podcasts that have like a similar variation. We are different, and we can all share in the wealth.
So it's with the real story of what happened to Mark Patton after the release of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Mark Patton played Jesse Walsh, who was the main character, and he finds Freddy living inside of him. And as it says in the Variety review of this film, a flaming little secret Jesse doesn't want to come out. So critics and audiences picked up on the gay subtext that was written deliberately into the script by screenwriter David Chaskin, although he wouldn't go on to acknowledge that until 2010's documentary on the history of Nightmare on Elm Street. He kept saying, it's not actually, I didn't write that into it was just a very gay actor who played it, and blamed the whole thing on Mark's interpretation of the character. And Mark was just like, actually, everything I did was in the script. And
or you encouraged it.
Right. And so the fallout of the criticism amid the AIDS crisis and just like rampant homophobia caused Mark to quit acting and then eventually leave the country and go to Mexico, where nobody knew who he was or that he was an actor or anything. And what they talked about in the 2010 documentary about Never Sleep Again, the documentary, he was actually the hardest person for them to find, because they just
literally off the map, off the grid.
Yeah. And so the movie kind of documents what like the creation of like Mark's life beforehand, the movie, and then what happened after, and how Mark returned to the spotlight 30 years later to a much more favorable political and social climate. Because after he did, because his one stipulation on doing they hired a private eye to find him in Mexico when they were doing the Never Sleep Again documentary. And he agreed to do the film if he got to confront David Chaskin on his flip-flopping of the reasons of the movie being gay.
And yeah.
But so after that, Mark went on a tour of all of these conventions, and the documentary kind of follows him around on this tour as he's coming to understand that generations of queer people found an ally and a crush on, Jesse Walsh, and found themselves represented in Jesse Walsh. And I thought, when this documentary was its best, when it soared, it was linking queerness and horror, and why queer people find an outlet in horror, and that like the final girl is always confronting the bully, and confronting the source of horror in their life, as queer people are not always able to confront the source of horror in their lives.
And that's where we find the film leads us to at the end. His biggest monster was this thing he made up in his head. And he put all this emphasis on this person and gave them too much power, And really, who was more of an asshole was the director.
The director, he's
such a piece of shit.
Jack Shoulder continued to claim that he didn't know it was gay. Yeah.
And even Coach, what was his name? Coach Shields or Coach Schneider, who played by, what's his name? Marshall Bell. He was even sitting there like, really? Like, you didn't pick up on the gay undertones, you grown ass person? Like, that was a gay bar that you went to, that you scouted out to perform this at. How did you not pick up on these things?
And what he said was like, when I scouted it, there wasn't anybody in there.
Daytime.
But there's
still chains. I'm still hanging inside or whatever.
And the script literally said, this is what he said. It literally said transvestite bar in the script.
Literally written into it. They described, you're saying you didn't pick up on the undertones, but there's no undertone. It's literally in the script to do these certain things. You're dressed up in leather chaps. What are you telling me? Like, you dressed up this character in leather chaps, and you're telling me you didn't pick up on the innuendo. And then he sat in there and he said, and he proceeded to do like gaslighting shit to him. He said, you seem so like out of it during the recording of the film. You seem so like you weren't there. I don't want to say the wrong word, but something about when we recorded the film, you weren't quite present. And then after they had that meeting, the next day he proceeds to tell him, I find it quite strange that you still hold on to these feelings. Like, maybe you should just let it go. And Lord, how many times as a Black woman have I been told that shit, and nobody to back me up. So at that moment, like, and not that I didn't feel throughout the whole film, but that moment, I knew that moment. Somebody telling me something they don't even remotely have an understanding that the impact they can have with just their carelessness.
Yeah, because I don't see it, so it must not be there.
Yeah, like I haven't been bothered by it for the last 30 years. I don't know. And the fact they haven't kept up with him to know everything that he's been through during that time since then, you know, like he lost a partner during that filming, got AIDS himself or
got
HIV.
got
And
AIDS, tuberculosis,
yeah,
thrush, a bunch of other
meningitis.
shit. He was like bedbound for years, and like his recovery time over that illness was so long, and you could see it on his body today.
Yes,
Like he's
everybody else
been
looked,
through it.
they looked so youthful and happy, and he still has that energy in him. But the years had like all that it wore on him, and I understand that. I've been that girl that's held on to shit because I never had the opportunity to say it, and then like, oh, you're crazy for bringing it up years later, you know. But it's like, well, it still fucking bothers me, and you aren't aware that you did that, you know. So maybe I'm not against bringing shit up if it's productive, and you know, there can be more constructive ways to do it. I mean, he realizes like he made these men up to be way more than they were. You know, they're not as powerful, even though they had this impact on him. He had this really successful thing going on. Like he was on Broadway with Cher and Kathy Bates and Karen Black
In a
in
Robert Altman
directed
production. Yeah.
production that went to Cannes Film Festival. Like, what the fuck?
That
You know,
got
like,
turned into a film.
you know, but he even admits, like, Cher gave me the best advice. He's, you know, and I didn't listen to it. You know, she said, just be yourself and do what you need to do.
Because that's what everyone else is doing. They're just looking after themselves. So you need to do that too. I thought it was so heartbreaking at the end when he was like, I don't have any friends my age because they all died of AIDS. And you're like, you were the final girl in your own life. That was fucking devastating.
Yeah.
That was devastating. As a point of levity, I will say Kim Myers looks fantastic, and she still looks like motherfucking Meryl Streep.
She looks just like Meryl Streep.
She does.
Meryl Streep, you got a motherfucking doppelganger out there. That shit is disturbing. She looks more like Meryl Streep than Meryl Streep's daughter. Like,
she made me don't have a thing on Kim Myers. Did you? I'm curious, like, as a point of criticism, just a small point of criticism of this as a documentary, I think I felt, you know, Mark's righteous anger. And I'm not criticizing Mark's anger. I'm not criticizing Mark's feelings. Right. But how do you feel about a documentary about a person where that person is also a producer? Because
I understand what you're saying, because and there's so many documentaries that go into such a biased direction, and it was his journey, and I appreciate the story, and I think his story is important, they outed a man 25 in 1985 who wasn't ready to be outed, and it wasn't their place to do that, and then they played stupid, and so yeah. I don't have an issue with it at all. I hope he gets credit for it and gets money off of it. He should.
Yeah. I mean, what
do you mean?
I just mean, I think you know what I mean. And it's just that the subject matter, I feel like they at times were a little precious with him in ways that, you know, I think it was good, but I don't think it was excellent as a documentary. Like,
I didn't, it took me 3 times to watch a documentary because it wasn't what I expected. It's a drama. It's a sad story, you know, and it's not about, you know, everybody, you hear Nightmare on Elm Street. I expect just obnoxious, over the top, you know, cool memories and images and lost, you know, footage, you know, like, and then, you know, oh, and this is the ruckus that we got into. The story's sad and it's real, but it's encompassed in this horror world. And what I appreciated about it was, I mean, it's such a vulnerable story. And, you know, today I was listening to Nicole Byer's show, Why Won't You Date Me? She had Roxane Gay on and she interviewed her. And
shout out to Roxane Gay. She was the first person who ever published me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
See?
she published my first short story in 2011. It was called, and can you believe this? It was called Sucking Famous Dick on the Rooftop of the Omni Hotel during
Oh, I
South by
remember that
Southwest 2011.
one.
Roxane Gay was the one who published that in Pink magazine back in
Okay, yeah.
2011.
So there's a clear reason. I knew you'd appreciate me just bringing up her name in general, but she said there was a thing, a cardinal, not a cardinal,
Bishop? Priest.
she put a thing in a yellow. Is it a yellow cardinal? A yellow? She described the bird, but she put
Canary.
a canary, yellow canary, in in the book Hunger. And when she described her weight at its heaviest, she just put the number. And in every single interview after that, everybody asked her about her weight. Even a woman that she greatly admired at one point, up until that interview, Terry Gross, who
I remember that interview
proceeded to
on
ask
Fresh
her,
Air. I remember
describe
that
your
interview.
body to me, and she says, "I'm tall." And she no, describe your body. No, I'm very tall. And she said the only person that never brought that up and who was worthy of that book was Trevor Noah. He understood it, and yeah, he's such a good interviewer, and I really understand why he got the job he did. But I through listening to that this morning and then rewatching Scream Queen today, this man was exploited, and but he put himself out there hoping and trusting in this crew, and they did not protect him, and they did not follow up. And if he had the same courageousness that he is courageous to come back after all these years, but you know what I'm saying, to be like a Roxane Gay kind of strength, you know what I'm saying, where she is in your face all day. She can't disappear, and no matter how hard she tries, and she refuses to disappear. That kind of strength. I had to learn how to possess that strength in my life, and I'm still learning. And
let me tell you a little story. I almost got in a fight outside of the Larchmont Rite Aid 2 days ago.
About
Did
what?
I tell you about this? Talking about that strength to stand up. So I leave the Rite Aid at Larchmont. It's like it's the closest Rite Aid to me, so it's the one I have to go to. And Larchmont is one of the richest neighborhoods in Los Angeles, and so there were just like these 4 skinny white boys playing video games on their damn phone, and at least they had their masks on, so socially responsible. And then one of them looks up and was like, "What's this? Is this ironic?" And I was like, "What's this? What's that, bitch?" And he was like, "Oh, so are we fighting?" And I was like, "Fighting? You're like 15. The only thing you're fighting is acne, bitch. I still see your mama milk titty on your upper lip." And like, cause like, I'm from a place where when people are liable to pop off. Mm-hmm. So you can see when people aren't going to. Mm-hmm. That fucking bitch was not going to find me, not even with him and his 4 friends, And I used to let people call me things and let them get away with it because I was scared, and because I was mousy and because I was quiet. And that is not me. You don't
always have that crew around you, maybe, to defend you.
Right. Or like enough lived experience in your body. We talked about this on last week's episode, where it's like the 23-year-old version of yourself versus the 36-year-old version of yourself.
Living
and it's
and
like
applying.
Yeah. And I had to live a life for a while before I got to the point where I was able to tell people,
about themselves.
Check your mama milk titty on your lip before you come speak to me. But the thing is, it was just so instinctual and second nature. It didn't even occur to me to not I was just like, I have let people like you call me names my whole fucking life. Hell no, 15-year-old Larchmont ass bitch. But like, so I see like, I see why Mark as a 25-year-old, because the thing is, like, when he was in New York, he was out. And then he had to come back in the closet when he came to Hollywood. And I can see why a person in that position
I don't think he was out in his acting career, per se. Like, I think within his working scene, he was, like, in Broadway, everybody's gay. That's like a known thing. But in Hollywood, that was different when made that transition. Because literally during the filming of Nightmare on Elm Street, they were like, Freddy was putting his claw in his mouth and shit, and they were like, "Bitch, that looks gay. You look like you're sucking a dick."
that makeup artist who ran up to him and was like, "You can't put Freddy's claw in your mouth because it's gonna look like you're
I
blowing
wish
him."
they kept that scene in there. I wish shit got weird and kinky like that, because they should have taken it there. They really should have.
Yeah.
But yeah, his agents came to him and they were like, "We have to make you like the all-American boy, make you straight, like, because they said after that you're just a character actor."
Yeah, because they were like, if you can't play straight, you're going to be a character actor. You can clearly carry a movie, but the ultimate carry is that then 30 years later, he's like on this tour, right? And he's like, it's like there's a thwarted ambition. I mean, the sad thing is like, it's not that it wouldn't be an issue right now, but it would be much less of an issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
in comparison to back then during the AIDS epidemic, and Lord.
What I loved about this documentary was the amount of cultural context it gave that film, but also horror in general. And that it was, especially 80s horror, was a reaction to Reagan conservatism.
Yeah.
And that, like, specifically though, with giving it the context of the socio-political climate, giving it the context of the AIDS pandemic, how could this not be a political movie?
Well, again, it's two cis men writing a gay film. It's a queer film. They have no fucking business writing that film. They don't know if it was gay men writing this film, they would have promoted it the proper way and it would have gotten the proper attention. They could have promoted it like fucking Deep Throat or some shit, and it would
shit.
But instead you got these motherfuckers up here who both seem kind of in the closet themselves. Like they never got to get out.
That was the motherfucking Powder and fucking Harry Firestein over there. Like,
he's a Harry Firestein.
You know what I'm talking about. But like, what it did was actually made me more curious about Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, because it's like, why did they choose that one? Because like, that had to go, like, just being in this town now and knowing how hard it is to get something made and how people are not willing to take risks because it's a financial investment. I'm curious who made that decision. Like,
well, they said it was the original people behind the first production. They hired Charles, and they said they trusted him with his work, and they signed off on it. Whoever they said it particularly in there, so it was either it must have been the first producers.
Because something like, I would have understood something like Dream Warriors as like a sequel, because like that has Heather Langenkamp and it has kids.
There's literally no link between it. They just switched up the Scream Queen, made it, with what's Mark's name in it? James Walsh. James Walsh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it didn't make any sense, but I never questioned that shit. Those films don't have to be so back to back. They don't have to sync properly.
I like that it wasn't. I like that it diverged from it, but like, for a franchise to take a chance, that's what I'm like, I want to know that story. Right. I want to know how they got that.
It was just a coincidence. Do you understand, like, you've written books, you've now worked on a show, and it was a quick, over, during COVID, but even that, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes production just to get that shit made. It is a miracle. Any film that you ever see out there in the mainstream, typically that's a miracle it ever even got.
For sure. Oh, 100%. Anything that gets made and that sees the light of day, you're right. It is a miracle. It's a modern miracle.
Sometimes there's the people who make those decisions, they get more credit than they deserve. Things fall into the right hands. And I've come to discover that over the years.
I just love it as a cultural artifact. What were you saying?
I mean, as a Black woman in Hollywood, like I moved to LA thinking about getting back into acting and stuff like that. And after meeting a few producers and shit, come to my house, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, this is not going to be my path.
I remember when the first time I ever came to visit you and Becky, it was 2010, 2009, maybe 2011, something like that, when you guys lived, like Drea and my friend Becky live like a block away from where I live right now in Koreatown. It took me a year and a half to figure that out. But I remember when I was staying with y'all and we were, you know, because we get into our chats, even back then, we get into our chats, and you were like, I think in an acting class at the time, you're like, I want to get back into this. And I always wondered what happened with that.
People and horrible people made me understand that I wasn't the path I wanted to take. And I didn't have it in me to put myself through that. It's not even that about having too much integrity. I just did not have the strength in me, because I admire my Black sisters out there doing it, Regina King and so on and so forth. So proud of them, but they had to go through hell to do what they're doing. And I've been demeaned enough and put through enough shit. And I just understood what I saw it for what it was, Hollywood. And I'm like, oh, I want to be behind the scenes. I don't want to be in front of the camera.
Yeah, like it's actually similar to something that Mark said in the movie, when he was like, when I saw those Village Voice reviews talk about this is the gayest movie ever, I heard every single person who ever called me a faggot in my entire life. Yeah. And he was just like, I didn't want to be a part of that world anymore. And he was like, I just took myself out. And it's like, some people can do the thing where they're just like, you know, casually demeaned for 15 years and then they're like, have their payday or something, or, you know, fulfilling the role. Like, I think that what happened was they said, you know, he got a gay role after that, and it was like, well, you're a caricature of who you are. And he was like, I didn't want to do that. And how do you assert dignity in the midst of being demeaned? You know, when you don't have the opportunity to choose the projects that you want to choose and have the ability to choose the writers who you want to write the character for you, or you don't have the clout to command a production studio. Mm-hmm. How do you assert your dignity in those moments? You know, and like our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents literally had to figure that shit out. How to have dignity in a world that wanted them dead. Mm-hmm. And continues to this motherfucking day. Because if it had changed, we wouldn't be in the middle of a fucking uprising.
Lord.
I would say that last conversation in the documentary was awkward as hell.
He yawned.
Oh,
I was like, I didn't tell you to scream like a woman. And that look he gave, I'm like, bitch.
I was doing the thing that I normally do in scary movies, which I was like, oh no, I can't watch this. It's too awkward.
I felt like the worst one was when the director called him out and tried or attempted to. That was so horrible. I couldn't, and you know, it was just.
That was like every other like woman, person of color, queer person, trans person, differently able person, etc., having to being confronted by their white male boss, being like, I just don't. I think you're making something out of a molehill. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you because you can't let go of these things.
Why am I feeling? Why are you making me feel this way about how I made you feel? Like, why are you pointing out what I did to you? I don't appreciate that. You know, fuck you. So whatever that director's name, Jack, like eat shit.
Shoulder, yeah.
Whatever. Jack and eat shit. And Charles, like, that wasn't an apology. That was like, and he proceeded to say, I knew gay people in the 80s and the 70s, and nobody was really out. So I'm like, then why did you proceed to write something like that? Like, what the fuck are you, why are you writing this? And I think he was trying to say in that moment, maybe he was trying to come out in that moment. He was trying to like drop some
oh my God.
Honey, let me tell you something.
You know, Jack Shoulder, that director, had no business running off his mouth. He looked like Nosferatu.
Who told him he had that goatee? That shit. Oh, you said Jack Shoulder. Yeah. And motherfucking Charles, though, that goatee on Charles.
Oh, David Chaskin.
Yeah. I can call him Charles.
Who cares? You don't need to know his motherfucking name.
Doesn't matter.
Don't say his name. Shit. Well, that, you know, it was a journey. I was here for it. Oh, I'm not shitting on it. I'm just saying. I'm optimistic that in telling Mark Patton's story the way that it has been told in this film, um, that other people will feel seen.
Then that's
And
what
that,
we got. Yeah.
yeah.
People, and it was nice that he got to understand that, you know, this whole time he's been downing himself, people have been admiring him, you know, and he only got to hear and see the rude comments. There were always good comments out there about that, because I loved that film forever. I never questioned that film. I always thought it was amazing. That bus scene at the end cracks me up, like scared the shit out of me. And I just, yeah,
It's also remarkable as a film in this franchise. It's the one where Freddy appears the least. Freddy has all of 12 minutes in this
and the
film.
pool scene, I thought, you know what, it's really weird. As a kid, because I saw this one probably more than most of them of the franchise, and in my head I always had an impression of there being a lot of deaths in it. And the pool scene is super violent because, you know, the water starts boiling and all that shit. But yeah, there's like very minimal, but it is like, but there's something very visceral and very real about it, because you're getting involved in somebody's life and the growth of them. And
it's also kind of notable because in this one, unlike almost every other one, Freddy doesn't kill people in their dreams. Like he doesn't.
He's trying to get out into the world, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't kill. I can't remember that homeboy name. He's the one who was also in Weird Science. The one who was like the actual love interest, as I like to say.
He was Robert Downey Jr.'s homeboy.
Yeah, he had such a good attitude about the whole thing.
Yes, he did. Everybody was awesome. They were all awesome, and like I knew what I was signing up for. The only people that sucked were the director and the writer. But I really genuinely, he had a great attitude. Homegirl, Meryl Streep Jr. had a good attitude. And motherfucking Coach Snyder, Marshall Bell. I was just,
well, because like I feel like as probably as actors, they have read the script. I don't know how you could get out of not read like. Well, he was like, well, I don't know what that is about. Like, it's literally there on the page. Can't fuck with motherfuckers who don't read.
maybe play stupid, but we ain't picking up on that bullshit. And I really very much genuinely just, overall, I'm happy this was made. I'm happy he got to have the resolution he needed and to realize he didn't have to let the world overtake him in that way. But it was probably a positive thing for him to get away from Hollywood, because Hollywood's a motherfucker.
He finally got that apology. And I think that's what he really wanted.
He just needs to be acknowledged in that sense.
So thank you, Screen Queen. We share a name and we share a spirit.
Okay, Tommy, tell us about our Scream Queen.
Well, you're the one who shares a namesake with this person. So Tashiana Washington as Drea in Critters Attacks. This was my entree to Critters, if you will. I'd never seen a Critters before. Also, it was just a disturbing amount of times that people said Drea, and I was like, I don't think I've ever heard people say Drea this many times in an hour and a half of my whole life. And it felt weird for me. So how did it feel for you?
Fucked up. It felt really weird. Yeah, but also comforting. Very comforting.
Well, there was, a namesake in a film. So Critters, this was like in 2019, I think, that like some critters have fallen to earth and then just start to wreak havoc. Yeah. And have you ever like seen a guy that you felt so attracted to in something that you just had to take a moment to relieve yourself?
Which one? The boy that she likes?
No, Kevin. The guy, he's the delivery boy who dies in like the first. He was so cute. I was like, let me just go take care of my moment. I mean, he looked hot and tall and brown, and I was like,
he didn't know he was giving a sushi delivery to the critters. I always knew critters like sushi, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay, so you be knowing.
Because, well, okay, so I told my family about this movie, and they're like, we always knew you were a fucking gremlin or a fucking critter or whatever. They're assholes. You know what I mean?
Woo!
Yeah, I said I'm the Scream Queen. They're like, no, you a motherfucking critter.
With them crusty toes.
Bitch, you ain't say nobody no crusty toe. I hate you.
Oh, when she said, like, her friend was like, because okay, so this is like Drea is like a babysitter on the night that these critters kind of attack. I was curious about that. Do you have any theories about what their mama was doing? Because she was like, I'm sorry, I gotta go. And like she gets a taxi
well, okay.
to like,
So let me break it down. This is the way this movie gets away with what it does is so this movie, if you don't know Space Invaders, which you should watch it, Tommy, it's on YouTube if you've never seen Space Invaders, but it's a made for TV 90s horror movie.
I would just like to point out the first time that you said Spaced Invaders.
What did I say?
With a D and a T, Spaced Invaders.
Is it called enunciation? A bitch. I want to put a T at the end of everything I say now. I hate you. And so Spaced Invaders, people, I know some people know what the fuck I'm talking about. There's a certain type of horror film, and also just the horror genre allows you to touch on points and to get reactions and also not be clear and be super fucking vague. And something really precious about the 90s that I liked were those movies that just were for fucking laughs and stupid. And this one, it's all I want. A babysitter has to, fucking take care of some fucking kids, but it's a mixed race, so we got a biracial, like, two kids being raised by their drunk uncle and
their drunk white uncle named
saying,
Willis.
Their drunk white uncle in a podunk. I was gonna say a podunk white town, and which Drea is constantly reminded of the fact that her mother died in a car accident on the way to get her from a party or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Her little brother Philip, he's obsessed with UFOs and listens to podcasts about UFOs all day, and he's trying to inform her.
Shout out to podcasts.
And motherfucking when you bring in those people, and then I just love, and Dee Wallace clearly only shot her parts in like a day or two. They were like, just to get her name, that must have cost so much.
Mm-hmm.
But also it ties in the story. So the original Critters films, like we talked about this earlier, but like Leo DiCaprio's, that was one of his first big movies, was in like Critters 3. The kid that was in 1 that plays Dee Wallace's son, I'm pretty sure he's in 2, I want to say. But it's he's a ginger. He's a well-known ginger. I want to say he turned into an alcoholic ginger, but I could be getting him wrong.
Ooh.
I don't think he's the guy from like
Bill Burr.
No. Bill Burr's not alcoholic. Bill Burr is cool as fuck. I like Bill Burr, actually.
I do too. I'm just saying.
No, it's not Bill Burr. He ain't. What the fuck is Bill Burr? Was not a child actor. Okay, so don't just be spouting out stupid shit.
I'm just saying names of white people who might be gingers.
Use that noggin of yours, okay? Spouting out shit.
I refuse. But here's something, to tie this into Scream Queen. It went on to that documentary went on to talk about how many famous people got their start in horror. Jennifer Aniston, Patricia Arquette, like people like that, where it's like they're big movies. Brad Pitt,
Jamie Lee Curtis,
Lawrence Fishburne, that like got their start in something like this.
Mm-hmm. I mean, why? Again, we've always talked about this. Why is horror not taken seriously? And a thing I wanted to, like he brought up that quote that I wish I could have taken just a class in horror. And I'm pretty sure there was a class at UCLA where Jordan Peele showed up and just taught a whole day. Oh yeah,
that was Tanana Rive-Du's class, who was in the history of horror noir. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When you have the chance to hear these words, horror was absolutely a response to Reagan and conservatism, and horror is just punk as fuck. Mm-hmm. Horror it's rebellion. It is. When people, I take pride. I wish I wear a horror patch, even when you don't see it. Like that's over my heart. Like horror, allows you to express a vocabulary you were not allowed to express, as they said in Scream Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say it in a way you're not typically allowed to say those things.
I mean, it's like horror and also just like sci-fi too, which I also like. Which
well,
is like
they're so closely blended. They're different but closely blended, and this Critters is both.
Yeah, because like in sci-fi, you can have a black woman on the helm of a starship when she wouldn't be able to go to a school with white people.
Uhuru.
Yeah.
I want to say her shit with an accent. Uhuru.
But like but in the real world, would it be possible for that woman to go to a white school? You know, so it's like imagination.
Keep bringing up shit. Everything keeps. Go ahead. I'm sorry, but you.
That was my point.
Oh, well, you said something about white schools. Brought me back. It's very funny that I happened to listen to this Nicole Vire her podcast today. She talked about going to boarding schools, being a Haitian woman, and how what it taught her is independence, because she had to be there and support herself and to defend herself. And she said her black students, the other black students there, they got her in line real quick because she was really good at the studies. She did all the schools, everything. But these white girls with money just did not know what to do with her. And her having to blend into that community and into that, it just taught her more than and when she went back 2 years ago, she spoke of the fact that as soon as she walked in, she realized that school hadn't changed at all. It was still the same place she left. And, this girl, Drea, and in Critters, she's striving to get into this school that her ex-best friend got into. And also during this, she knows that her friend's mother died. If she got into this school, she stopped talking to her. So she's like, let me break you off with a little jabby jab. And so I don't feel so bad about myself or how I
I got the hookup. No, I can give you this thing to cover up for the fact that I haven't talked to you for 2 goddamn motherfucking years.
And when she says it's a babysitting gig, and Drea reacted properly. A fucking babysitting gig, bitch? Like, who do I look like to you? You don't understand. This is gonna get you to other places. Like, I didn't ask you to give me no motherfucking handouts. Like, that is so.
Like, I could have been research assistant. Like, I could have been like something.
And then
else.
Towards the end, she's like, "Well, this will lead you to that." And then I also love when she finally comes around after Drea is like kind of obsessed with homegirl's boyfriend. That basic ass generic.
Why did he fucking take his shirt off? Why did he take his shirt off?
I wrote a note about that. As it happened, I'm like, why is he taking his shirt off? And why is she obsessed with him? But me, black girl growing up, I grew up in a very like beach white town, and it's not that you strive for it, but it's like it's your only option. So you it's like you get to a certain age, you're attracted to your peers or whatever. Like, I wanted to date, but all I had was I had really like my options were pitiful.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of bros in East County.
They're all over all over California, baby. They're all over. It's not just East County. You got them KKK bros.
That's what I'm saying.
I got them military bros. Yeah, I got them.
It's a different flavor of bro out there.
I got them. The Rock looking bros over here, but but they're all fucking stupid. And another thing from that podcast, Nicole Byer said the best thing before her mother, both her parents died, and her mother used to write her these really lovely letters and explain herself to her. And she gets to hold on to these letters every day. Yeah. But her mother said, why are you out here striving and looking for these men that don't find you, that they don't want you? So why do you want them? Like, do you find that man attractive? And she's like, no, he's like greasy looking. He got greasy hair and he's just like face as fuck. And he's like, and I'm over here worried about him liking me, But I that much, it annoyed me that Drea did that in the movie. That she was like, every time he touched her or take his shirt off. That was so basic and stupid.
Yeah, but he had so many lines on his forehead. I was like, there is no way you are a 22-year-old right
now. No, never. And I just love that he got rolled over by the big critter ball. That's my favorite. When the critter ball happens, because that critter ball is it's like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes when it turns into Big Tomato. It's very the critter.
Katamari Damasu or whatever that one garbage ball game is. Yeah.
It's when his ass is like, I could run all day. He was too good at playing stupid. Actually, you don't have to. It's not hard to play stupid. I'm not gonna give him credit.
I just, bruh, like, does wearing a shirt make you slower? I don't think so.
You're just playing into the tropes. I get it. He was like, I'm gonna go super bro. It was just really a lot. It was a lot and a weird balance. I like that Drea got a bigger mouth towards the end of the movie. She even was like ragging on ex-best friend at the end, like, who got the most kills of critters. She's like, you did I.
I also like that she learned how to babysit on YouTube, basically. I was like, I fuck with an autodidact. I fuck with someone who's like, I'll just learn it on the way. Like, I don't, like, you don't.
I also wanted to leave Bianca in the woods. She's like, that is a wild animal. Just leave that fucking thing.
I forgot that they named it Bianca.
I want a Bianca, by the way. Buy me a Bianca for my birthday, Tommy.
Okay. A Bianca.
I want a Bianca critter. Give me one.
Let me try to figure out how. And
I told you I want one of those, or I want that doll from What We Do in the Shadows that Natasha has. I want a doll.
I know what you do in the shadows, and it's disgusting. But yeah, I thought Drea as a character, like, she tried to keep it good. Like, she took responsibility. She tried to keep it on the level. She didn't overreact and she didn't underreact. I thought she did a good job of, like, when it came to it, being like, all right, I guess we're going to fight. Like,
there was character development there. I love the fact that her and Dee finally met at the end, got to fuck some shit up. The critters were way more violent. And like it's never been that bloody in any Critters film ever before.
That one dude who thought he was reaching for his motherfucking loofah and grabbed a critter.
A loofah critter. I love a loofah critter. I love a loofah critter. That shit is funny. But there's never been, like, they don't think they even use like red blood in most of the films. They might be a little bit of blood, but mostly it's just like biting, and it's more theatrical. But there was a weird mix of like these cheesy ass looking puppets, which I love. They're supposed to look fucking stupid. And
I was honestly glad that it wasn't CGI.
Yeah. Practical effects were the shit. I love the practical effects. So effective. The practical effects were effective. That's what I just said. So anyway. But it really did work for me. I was happy. And there's a fucking movie about me. It's not me, guys. I promise. All Black women do not look alike.
But you know, they played you in the movie version of it. Like, you lived the real life version, and then Tashiana Washington went and go play you in the Critters version on the big screen or the small screen or the VOD or the on demand, whatever.
She's diverse, and I plan on getting more into her. She's also been in. She was in that recent series on HBO, Betty, and she was also, I believe, she had a role in Skate Kitchen, which I really liked. And yeah, she's pretty awesome. And fucking Tashiana, she's a Washington. We find a Washington.
I also, like you said before, I liked that her being biracial wasn't something that they felt like they had to explain. He just has this white uncle named Willis and a black mama. And it's not like, but how did...
What?
There was no white lady math meme that was like, this is how we figure out somebody's racial identity. I like that they just let it be. Most of the times in films like this, I like it when they don't try to fucking explain every goddamn thing.
Yeah, I agree. So I'd say overall, I'm just, I will admit, I found this film because I was looking up, I set Google alerts for my name, so.
Wow.
Well, a bitch wants to know somebody's writing about her. If they're sending out like scandalous shit about me, I need to know. That's why it happened.
I like this look on you. I feel like it might have been because we had that domino meeting where I was like, well, I figure out when they talk about Scream Queen because I have a Google alert on my name.
It was before that. You told me, and I was like, oh, I need to do that. And I didn't do it for months. And then I'm like, and you brought it up again. I'm like, as soon as we got off the meeting, I'm like, bloop, bloop, bloop.
Well, Tashiana Washington as Drea in Critters Attacks. You're our Scream Queen this week. We love you, baby.
You did Drea's good justice. Thank you. You know what I'm saying. All right.
Hello, listeners. Love you. Or viewers now, because we're on 2 different platforms. Next week, where we come back, same time, same place, where our main discussion topic will be the Dave Franco movie Rental with Sheila Vand, a former Scream Queen of ours. And our Scream Queen of the Week, we had done her before in season 1, and we don't mind doing her again. Lupita Nyong'o, this time a Little Monster, zombie film, and that yellow dress is iconic. I gotta say, it looks really good on her.
Cute. She's so funny. Listen, just pretty colors like that on dark skin. It's just, you can't go wrong.
I remember like a while ago, Lauren had told me, oh, it was when Sparkle came out. And the new Sparkle, and there was like a music video for, maybe it was given to something, I can't remember, it was like one of the songs in that movie, and she was just like, man, popping colors on Black people is just my favorite thing in the whole world.
Scream Queen is produced by Alexander De Palma and Domino Sound.
With theme music by Doc Allison.
I am Drea. I'm ready to snatch a bitch's eyes out, mother.
Keep going. It was good. Keep going.
I will snatch a bitch up like Babs. I swear to God. At,
I love
Washington.
Babs.
That is my whole middle name. It's on my motherfucking birth certificate. You can find me on the gram at Hey Girl Hey. That's HeyGrlHey. And I meant my motherfucking words.
I am Tommy. Bitch, you're 15. The only thing you're fighting is acne pico. And you can find me at Hey Teebs on Instagram, HeyTeebs on the gram. That bitch tried me. I could not believe that he was about to do that.
He got a titty on his lip still. You got your titty on your lip.
You can find us on Instagram at Scream Queen Podcast.
And online at screemqueenpodcast.com.
Send us some love notes, some correspondences, talk about some role playing. I don't know. Do what you want to do. We want to feature some of these letters at some point on the show. You might be a part of one of those segments at screemqueen@gmail.com. That's SCREEM queen@gmail.com.
Also wanted to throw out, we're going to be making a Scream Queen Google voicemail. So y'all can send in some questions, or we're going to be throwing out questions actually, and then you can give us your answers through there.
Yeah, we want to know, like, what are some of the scariest moments of you in the theater? Because I remember one time after I saw I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, it was a funny scene, but when Jack Black Rastafarian ass got cut up by those pinking shears, I actually had to leave the theater and vomit.
Oh, bitch.
I know. So maybe tell us some funny ass and disgusting stories from when you had to see a scary movie in the theaters. Like the time producer Alex took an edible before seeing Annihilation and had a full-on panic attack and had to leave.
Don't do that, guys. Don't do that. We love you, Alex, but that's stupid.
And in the scary movie of your life,
you better
Scream Queen. It was all right. It was a good job. No, we did good. It was good enough.
Tommy took one of my lines. That was my line you said earlier. What? I was on the thing, and you said my fucking line.
What was your line?
It says, in the scary movie of your life. It was my line this week. Just so you know.
Are you looking at the doc right now?
Yeah,
it says Teebs in the scary movie of your life. You better Scream Queen.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Vindication.
I can edit this any way I want to edit this, and I can make it look like you're wrong. So don't worry about it.